What would you say to the people of the world when asked what you stand for?
I'd like to think everything good and decent. Truth, justice.
The American way?
We open in Metropolis. Clark Kent is a reporter for the Daily Planet. Him and Lois are also hitting it off strong, and life is good for Clark. Meanwhile, he's also helping people as his alter ego, Superman, the Man of Tomorrow. A group of thugs are getting away in a van and shooting at the cops. Superman flies down and stops them. After that, one guy is having issues asking his boyfriend to marry him, and Superman writes, "Will you marry me in the sky?" with clouds. Superman continues helping out by rescuing a kid from bullies, making sure the kid gets home safe. At work the next day, Jimmy, Clark, and Lois are investigating a story. Perry calls them into a meeting and wants Lois to attend a LexCorp new project launch. Lois refuses, saying they shouldn't give Luthor good press. He's a criminal. He's an evil madman. But Perry reminds her that Luthor owns stock in the planet, and she has to go. She agrees, and Lois grabs Jimmy. But when she looks for Clark, he's already gone. We cut to Superman flying through the city, and he lands in front of a blast of lightning. It's Livewire, and she's robbing a CD store. Superman moves the civilians out of the way, one after another, dash, dash, dash. But the last civilian is struck by Livewire's lightning. Superman checks on him, and the civilian is okay, even geeking out over the fact it's Superman, the Man of Steel. Oh my god, he's such a big fan. Superman takes down Livewire and talks to the civilian. He introduces himself as Rex Mason, and he tells Superman he's a really big fan. Superman smiles, shaking his hand, and then he flies off. Lois walks downstairs of the planet, while Jimmy follows her. Clark shows up in front of them. Lois asks where Clark had been, and he says, I don't know, I've just been in the bathroom, doing bathroom stuff. Lois asks why he went all the way downstairs, and Clark just shrugs it off. The three of them leave to the press conference, and then they see Lex. He presents his new technology, the Amazo. Lex explains that this new suit can mimic the abilities of anyone and duplicate them. It could be used for military use, construction, or anything you could really think of, including taking down metahumans. Lex demonstrates getting a man to lift 1,000 pounds. Then, Amazo scans the weightlifter and lifts the weights with ease. People cheer, but Lex isn't done. He promises people that with this machine, he'll be able to clear the world of metahumans. Clark frowns, and Lois then asks Lex how they control the robot and how they make sure it doesn't go on a rampage. Lex calms her, explaining that there's a nanochip in the back of its neck that controls the robot and makes it do as the person in charge commands. Jimmy starts taking photos, but as he does, the Amazobot starts to malfunction to the flashing lights. Clark notices this and whispers to Lois to talk about Lex's illegal cloning experiments. Lois asks Lex about the rumors of the illegal cloning, and people start to gasp. Lex doing something illegal? My god, this is unheard of! As everyone starts talking, Lex panics to answer the questions. Then, Amazo starts to attack. Clark runs off, and we get the iconic shirt pull. He transforms into Superman and punches Amazo right in the face. The two start fighting. Superman flies, attacking the robot, but it scans him and copies his abilities. It beats Superman down, but in the nick of time, Superman uses his heat vision to fry its head off, destroying Amazo. Lex yells at Superman, but Superman just pushes him down and flies off. Embarrassed, Lex frowns and tells people this was just a demonstration, just a prototype. It's no big deal. The final Amazo will be ready, and when it is, Superman will die. Meanwhile, Rex Mason returns to work, where his boss, Simon Stagg, berates him for being late. Rex apologizes, explaining that there was an attack by Livewire. There was nothing he could have done, but Simon just continues berating him, telling him to fix a chemical leak in the basement. Rex goes down to the basement, where all the chemicals lay about. Orange, pink, brown, and white chemicals lay all mixed together. Rex starts to clean them up with a mop, but he actually slips and falls into them. He tries to wipe them off, but just then, an electrical wire falls down. It must have been cut by something. And boom, it explodes. Rex screams in pain, but his body melts, becoming mush. Meanwhile, at work, Lois asks Clark why he's always disappearing. Clark doesn't respond, instead trying to play it off like a joke, but Lois presses him further. However, Jimmy walks in with pictures of the Amazo incident, and Clark immediately helps him with them. Lois asks more, but it's too late. Clark is too focused on the photos now. That night, Rex reforms into a monster, the Metamorpho. He looks at his body and freaks out. He puts on a nearby hoodie and walks into the company bathroom, his body melting with every step, his feet dissolving into pink and orange goo. He looks into the mirror and screams, his face pale white, his body divided into sections of rock, steel, and liquid. He punches the mirror, shattering it in an instant, and he yells 2 words: Simon Stagg. Metamorpho makes his way to Stagg's office, and we see Simon calling his boss, Lex Luthor. Simon tells Luthor that the experiments with matter phasing are going well, and that they have an actual test subject now. Not that he volunteered, but unfortunately, the test didn't go so well. However, immediately Metamorpho smashes the windows to Simon's office, overhearing the conversation. He yells that they used him as a test subject, and he grabs Simon by the throat, preparing to stab him. Clark, as he works with the photos, overhears this with his super hearing and runs off, blasting through the sky to LexCorp's building. As Metamorpho goes to stab Simon with his hand now made of metal, Superman stops him, grabbing his hand and breaking it into 2. Metamorpho attacks Superman, the 2 throwing blows. Superman punches a hole straight through Metamorpho's stomach. Metamorpho just forms around it, punching Superman in the face, slamming him into a wall. Superman uses heat vision to tear Metamorpho in half, the laser vision burning his eyes. But Metamorpho just reforms into a gas, and then forms back into a person, a monster. Superman continues to fight him. Metamorpho smashes Superman against another wall, but then Superman gets an idea. If he can get Metamorpho to turn into a liquid, maybe he can freeze him. Superman blasts him with the heat vision again. Still, it hurts his eyes, but it's an idea nonetheless. Metamorpho goes into a liquid form to dodge the heat, and just then Superman blows on him, freezing him. He looks around, with damage everywhere. He apologizes to Simon Stagg, but then he questions why was Metamorpho attacking him. Usually villains have a reason to attack. This was just weird. However, before he can get answers, Metamorpho breaks out of the ice and goes to shoot Superman with a spike. However, LexCorp guards with sound guns restrain Metamorpho, and Superman flies off. Simon tells the guards to put Metamorpho into a cell, as he has plans for the test subject. Clark returns to work where Lois is waiting for him. She asks him why he left in such a rush, and Clark says he had to take a phone call from his mom. Lois holds up Clark's phone, saying he left it on the desk. Clark immediately snatches it and says he had to go to a phone booth and change. You know how it is, he spilled coffee on himself. But Lois points out that he's wearing the same clothes as earlier. Clark runs off, not knowing how to answer it. Lois walks off, upset. That night, Clark visits his mom, and they talk about Pa Kent. Clark misses his dad, and Martha tells him that it's okay. People die, and sometimes you just need to learn to move on. But he's still with them, and that's what matters. He's in their heart. And as long as Superman does the right thing, as long as he stands for truth, justice, and a better tomorrow, Everything will be okay. The two hug, and Clark asks Martha for advice, telling her that he wants to tell Lois his secret, but he isn't sure. Martha tells him to do it, and they both smile. Meanwhile, Simon Stagg experiments on Metamorpho and tries to figure out how it worked. The previous test subjects died, but this one survived. Metamorpho tells him that he'll never tell him how he got his powers, mainly because he doesn't know. Simon tortures Metamorpho, and he ends up bubbling, and he accidentally explodes, shattering the gas, which kills Simon and the other scientists in the room. Metamorpho freaks out as he reforms. He didn't mean to kill anyone, he didn't know. His powers overreacted. He exploded. He couldn't help it. He starts crying and he runs out, changing into multiple forms: lava, ice, metal, and many more. Meanwhile, Clark returns to the Daily Planet when he gets a phone call from Lois telling him to meet him on the roof. Clark runs up the stairs and sees Lois standing near the edge of the building. She walks up to Clark and tells him that she's sick of hearing his lies. She wants the truth, and she threatens to break up with Clark if he doesn't tell her. Clark says he's not sure he can. Lois starts to walk towards the door, telling him it's over, but Superman grabs her arm. She turns around to see Clark in his Superman outfit. She pieces it together. "You're Superman." Clark nods, and he puts his glasses back on. He tells Lois that he didn't want to tell her because he wasn't sure how'd she react, but she immediately hugs him and tells him it's okay. She understands now, and she's sorry for pushing him. The two smile, and Superman asks if she wants to go flying. Lois says yes, and he takes her flying through the clouds into the sky. Lois touches the clouds, sees birds, and they even pass by a plane. They land on another rooftop and kiss. Lois smiles, telling him that he's the best boyfriend ever. But as she says that, an explosion rocks downtown. Clark uses his vision to see Metamorpho. He tells Lois that he has to go, and she understands. He flies off and goes to Metamorpho. Metamorpho tells Superman that he can't control his powers. He doesn't want to hurt anyone, but he doesn't know what to do. Superman tells him to calm down, but Metamorpho keeps freaking out. He can't control it. Spikes shoot out of him. His hand forms into a giant ice ball, which he flings into a wall. His foot turns into lava, melting the city streets. A lamppost almost hits a person. Superman moves the person out of the way, and he doesn't know what to do. He's not sure how to deal with a threat that his powers can't handle. But he remembers what his mom said. Stand for truth. Stand for justice. Stand for a better tomorrow. Superman makes a wall of ice surrounding him and Metamorpho so that no one can see them. He grabs Metamorpho and hugs him. He tells Metamorpho that everything will be okay. He asks him for his name, and Metamorpho tells him that it's Rex Mason. Superman recognizes him as the man from earlier and tells him that he remembers him. He's sorry he didn't earlier. Metamorpho says that he doesn't know what to do, and Superman says it's okay. He puts on his glasses and tells him that his name is Clark Kent. He's an alien, but he grew up in Kansas. He always struggled with powers growing up. Metamorpho asks why he's doing this, and Superman says it's because Metamorpho needs help. He tells Metamorpho to take a deep breath and just focus on one thing, something or someone you love. Metamorpho closes his eyes, and he slowly turns back into Rex Mason. He smiles, and we fade to black. The ending of the film is Lois reporting on what happened. She makes up a report about how Metamorpho seemingly died, and that Superman saved the day. However, we cut to Rex leaving therapy, where Clark waits for him. The two talk, and we learn that Rex is going to therapy to control his powers. Clark got Lois to pretend that Metamorpho died so that nobody knows Rex was the monster. The two hug, and we end the film with Clark going back to the Fortress of Solitude in Antarctica. He hangs his cape on a pole, sitting down in the snow as a penguin waddles by him. The cape flies in the wind like a flag, and Superman, the man of tomorrow, smiles. The end.